At 17 years old, I was sent to prison. I was incarcerated for approximately 6 years, included four of those in solitary confinement. And ultimately, I made decisions that impacted my life for a very long time, even to this day. But my story doesn't and it didn't end there. I eventually earned my master's degree. I became a professor of criminal justice. I led juvenile justice facilities. I even went back to the same juvenile facility I once escaped as a juvenile. And today I have the same privilege of continuing to lead and hopefully influence positive change in speaking engagements and in the work that I do and helping those professionals out who are in this field. When I started this YouTube channel, I didn't know exactly where it was going to go. It wasn't really about trying to chase views. It wasn't really about trying to become viral. It all really started about one simple question: how can I take everything that I've ever learned, every experience I've been in, which wasn't always the most pleasant, and actually give it to somebody in a way that helps them out? Now, for those of you who have been here since the beginning, you watch this channel grow. You watch me talk about leadership, juvenile justice, leadership in juvenile justice, trauma-informed care, accountability, personal growth, having a growth mindset in life. And I've also talked about the systems that I once lived in and provided that perspective. Every comment, every subscriber, every conversation means more than me than what you probably even realize. In my first TEDx talk, An Insider's Plan for Rehabilitating the Juvenile Justice System, I talked about what I experienced as a young person living within the system and what that meant to me, and then what it meant for me to actually graduate and transform to working within that same system. In my second TED Talk, I discussed being informed to trauma. I spoke about the importance of looking beyond behavior, looking behind the person and the act, and asking who they truly are, and understanding how words impact us in so many different ways that we don't even realize. And those talks gave me the opportunity to share parts of my journey and parts of my story in ways I never thought that I could. But there's so much more to my story. There's so much more to the things that made me the man that I am today speaking to you. This is truly what this channel has been about. It hasn't really been about my past. It hasn't been about any titles that I've carried, but the lessons that I've learned, the lessons I try to share, and the lessons that I think are so important. It's the idea that our worst decision doesn't have to define who we are and who we're going to be and who we could be. The idea is that words matter, leadership matters, accountability matters, and most importantly, you and I matter. This is why I'm excited to tell you that after years of writing, rewriting, editing, remembering, thinking of so many things I had pushed down so deeply, and after pouring my heart into it, my first book is almost here. It's called Words Matter, the Jeff Wallace Story. It isn't just another prison story that you hear about. It isn't just about being successful. And mind you, every success I've ever had has been built on failure. It's a story about true redemption and transformation. It's about how the words spoken to us, the words we speak to ourselves, shape who we are, and more importantly, who we can become. It's about the juvenile justice system, leadership, trauma, hope, responsibility, redemption, and the people who manage these systems and help me change who I was along the way. It's truly about thinking differently about how we see our own selves and how we see our own story. The book should be available in the next couple months, and truly, I can't wait to share it with you. Now, over the next several weeks, I'll be sharing some behind-the-scenes updates. I'll be talking about some of the chapters, maybe possibly sharing some of the stories that didn't make it into previous videos, and there's quite a bit, and letting you know exactly when this book is going to launch so you can have your own copy. And today I really want to just give you a first real look at this book. The prologue sets the stage for the entire book. It explains why I wrote it, what the title Words Matter means to me exactly, and why I believe the words people will say to each other and the words that people say about each other and to ourselves can influence so much in the direction of who we're going to be. But it also reminds us that we have the ability to challenge those words, rewrite those labels, and choose exactly what we will be by believing more in who we are and who we can be. But before I read it, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to everybody who has been supporting me, who's been there from the beginning, who is joining now. I appreciate you for believing in me, because I can honestly say that there's been so many times where I just didn't believe that I had any belief in myself, let alone I never thought that others would believe in me. So if you're new here, welcome. I hope you'll stick around. If anything that I've shared has challenged your thinking, encouraged you, or helped you become a better leader, parent, professional, or simply a better person, then this channel has already accomplished what I hope that it would do. And I would love for you to share that. I just would like to know. Please continue to share in the videos, leaving comments, telling me what you'd like to hear about next. I appreciate all those different conversations. If you haven't did this already, again, subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notifications. I don't want you to miss out on anything. We're just getting started, and I think that we are on an amazing journey. What I want to do now is I want to just read from my book, Words Matter, the Jeff Wallace Story. It's titled Foundations, Lessons from a Life Unfolding. I began writing this book on May 24th, 1975. Though I didn't realize it at the time, this was the day I was born. For many years, I believed my life was simply a series of random events, misfortune, poor decisions, and challenging environments. I blamed my upbringing, those around me, the system, and sometimes just life itself. It took me a long time to understand while I could not control how my story began, I could control how it continued and how it would end. Most of what I learned did not come from traditional classrooms. My greatest lessons came from facing consequences, experiencing failures, losing, being forced into moments of stillness and reflection, from encounters with people who challenged my worldview and sense of self. Later, books and formal education helped me find language for lessons I've already lived but never fully grasped. Education gave me vocabulary to articulate what experience had already taught me. As time passed, I recognized that the same lessons kept repeating throughout different stages of my life. I saw them in prison, in school, at work, in relationships, and in the books I read. They were echoed by ancient philosophers, modern psychologists, military leaders, and business experts. People from vastly different times and places all wrote about the same fundamental truths of human behavior. This realization helped me see the lessons I was learning were not just my own, they were universal. Eventually, I understood my life was not merely a collection of stories, but a collection of lessons. They formed patterns which became principles. Over time, these principles evolved into what I think of as universal truths, ideas about responsibility, discipline, identity, relationships, education, and personal transformation that apply to nearly everyone, regardless of their background or the mistakes they've made. This book is structured around those lessons. Each chapter shares part of my story, but more importantly, it represents a lesson I learned along the way. The stories illustrate how I learned them. The lessons explain why the stories matter. If I had to distill everything I learned from the streets, school, prison, work, the books, and people who guided me, it would amount to 14 lessons. I did not learn them all at once. I did so gradually, often the hard way, usually after repeating the same mistakes. The lessons themselves are simple, but the process of learning them was not. Words become reality. The way we speak to others and ourselves shapes our identity and our future. Responsibility changes direction. Life doesn't improve when locations change, but when decisions change. Self-examination prevents repetition. If we do not examine our thinking and behavior, we repeat our past. Labels become limits. People often become what they're told they are. Fear creates short-term thinking. Fear makes people choose survival over growth. Avoidance increases consequences. Running from problems only makes them bigger. Accountability begins change. The moment we stop blaming ourselves is when our lives can change. Isolation creates self-awareness. When distractions disappear, we finally meet ourselves. Losing teaches what winning hides. Loss forces reflection, humility, and growth. Discipline wins the real fights. The most important battles in life are against laziness, ego, fear, and excuses. Education creates freedom. Knowledge creates options. Options create freedom. Belonging shapes identity. The people around us influence who we become. Skills change behavior. People improve when taught how to live differently. And lastly, you can rewrite your ending. You cannot change the beginning of your story, but you can change how it ends. For a long time, I believed I was fighting other people, the system, or my circumstances. Eventually, I realized that most of the time I was just fighting myself. The moment I began focusing on changing myself instead of trying to change everyone else, my life started to change. This book is the story of how I learned those lessons. Thank you for listening and for continuing to support this journey. Remember, your past may explain you, but it doesn't have to define you. Choose your words carefully because words matter. I'll see you next time.